All rolling. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Alexander the Great Volkanovski, who this past weekend, in front of 19,000 strong at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, defended his UFC featherweight championship yet again by TKOing the great Yair Rodriguez in the third round. The official time came at 4:19 of round number 3. Mark, start us off. Give us your take of yet another phenomenal, flawless performance by Alexander the Great.
I do have a take. Alexander Volkanovski is really good. I don't know if anyone else has had that take yet, but I'm throwing it out there. Really, though, this guy is amazing. I loved the way he fought the whole fight. I loved how he came out constantly switching stances early. I think that gave Yair something to have to adjust to right away instead of letting Yair just open up with crazy shit where he could try to set a tone early. I think it kind of gave Yair pause to have to think about that. Then he caught the leg for the takedown pretty quick, like a minute and a half into the fight. And he is tough on top, man. He'll control you if you're not really battling to get up. And Yair did after a bit, but he went back a couple more times. He couldn't really went back down a couple more times. Couldn't really create any space to get Volk off him in that first round. Round 2, Yair did start to open up a bit more, but Volk is just so good at not getting hit. And then when he does get hit, you can't hurt him. And Yair did land like that one big counter right as Volk stepped in. But then next thing you know, it's to the ground again. And Volk is working for 3 minutes on top. He bloodied Yair. He did some damage, made him work, wore on him. And it was all Volk through those 10 minutes. And then even in round 3, the way, again, Yair started to get off a little bit. But I loved how Volk started closing the distance, and he kept changing the angle to kind of try to cut Yair off and crowd him just so Yair could not open up with those range strikes. He's just too good, man. He's got an answer for everything. He has such a grasp of every single aspect of the fight game. He's a smart fighter, and he looked fantastic in there. Yes, the headbutt happened, which was unfortunate. I don't want to ignore that because it actually looked like it knocked Yair pretty clean on the jaw. So I don't know how much of a factor that ended up being. Yair did seem to be moving completely fine after, like he was throwing jumping kicks and all that. And then he even landed probably his best combinations of the fight after that. So you'd think he was fine. But that was the point of the fight where he really landed a couple, and it seemed like he had Alex feeling some strikes for the first time. And then it truly felt like Alex was like, all right, like, you're going to hurt me now? Fuck this fight. We've been here long enough. I'm just going to end it. And he flipped a switch. Like, I know it's not quite that simple, and people laugh when you hear that, but, like, it really did look like that's what went on in Volk's mind. Like, he was playing in there, and then he was like, all right, I've had enough. And it started with a beautiful counter right that hurt Yair bad. He chased him to the cage, swinging body head, and then he just absolutely dumped him with that takedown. And he put a barrage on him. So it was really one of the all-time, like, flick a switch type finishes that I can recall seeing in a fight that was that high level. Just the way that he landed, charged, crowded him, then the way he dumped him with that takedown, poured it on. It was just like it went from a competitive fight to being over in like what felt like 20 seconds. So another absolutely dominant performance for Alexander Volkanovski, the man who is in a lot of people's minds the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world right now, and he backs it up again.
Omar, give us your take of the techniques thrown by both of these men in this fight, and what in your estimation was the real difference maker in this contest?
Volkanovski is what, like 4'8"? Like, the man is extremely tiny, and yet he probably has some of the best distance management currently in the game. His ability to fight somebody significantly taller than him, stay on the outside enough, and then be right on the inside so that the kicks don't affect him as much is crazy. Is absolutely crazy. It's very difficult to do. And the thing with Volk that I think is the most impressive is he doesn't make a ton of mistakes, right? So a lot of the things that he's doing them purposefully. He's trained it. He's done reps on those specific things. If you go back and you watch, you can see him throwing leg kicks. You can see him missing the leg kick, but immediately closing the distance again. Like his distance management, especially against everybody else who's taller than him and larger than him, well, taller than him, he does really well at not letting his tiny size affect him in that specific area. The other thing is I think it worked in his favor when it came to Yair's kicks, because Yair was kicking over his head consistently throughout that fight. I think if the guy was maybe another 2, 3, maybe even 4 inches taller, he probably would have eaten a shin right to his face. And I think that was one of the adjustments that Yair didn't end up making in that fight. And I think the fight was difficult to not say that there were shades of Yair and Frankie Edgar, right? All the ground control, all the ground damage that happened in that fight. But you'd have to give Volkanovski his props because he was standing with Yair as well. He was really causing Yair to not make effective striking in there. His kicks were kind of all over the place. He kind of tried to almost overwhelm him when he could with volume, but the accuracy and sort of the sharpness that we normally see from Yair wasn't really there. And I think a lot of that had to do with the pressure from Volkanovski and the prospect of having to work and take him down and all that kind of stuff. I think it really affected Yair throughout the fight, and it got worse. It got really bad throughout the fight.
Dude, I think it's a great point. His distance management, especially given his stature, and I imagine in a fight like this going into this matchup, he and his teammates and his coaches probably really put an extra emphasis on this. Like, hey, this guy isn't just bigger than you, because almost everybody he fights is at least taller than him. But Yair, with his Taekwondo pedigree, he fights so long and he can attack you from such range that the onus on distance management was probably tenfold for Volkanovski in this fight. And man, he's so composed. He executes a game plan. He's so present. He's so dialed in. That's the word. Volkanovski is so dialed. And I mean, all these guys are fucking dialed in. But Volkanovski, he finds another level, man. And Mark, to your point, which I also love, it's like he'll spar and he'll chess match with you until he's like, all right, this is over. And then he puts his foot on the gas. Maybe that's like his rugby days, coming into play. He knows when to put his foot on the gas and put his head down and be like, take down, ground and pound, savage. He has such a great recipe. He's hard to find. And if you do find him, he's hard to hurt. He has a good chin. He has an iron will. He has great hands, great striking. He's great. He's very good on the ground. Great takedown defense. He's just like the total package, man. Just the total package. And now this is his 6th featherweight title win, his 5th featherweight title defense. He's now 6-1 in UFC title fights. I mean, just tremendous stuff, man. And he's not slowing down anytime soon. That being said, Mark, what do we think is next for Volkanovski? Is he going to wait around for another lightweight shot, or is he going to defend featherweight again?
I just want to make one more quick point, which is that
Do it.
I also feel like he is one of the most calm fighters we ever see within a fight. Like he truly gives off vibes like he could get beat for 20 minutes. It's not like we've seen this scenario, but as if he could get beat for 20 minutes and go to his stool and have his corner be like, Alex, we got to change this. We got to change it. And he'd be like, guys, like, I got 5 minutes. I'm going to finish him. Like, don't worry. Like, that's really what he seems like in there. Like, he just always feels like it's in his control.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of what he's going to do, obviously there are only 2 options, barring some crazy curveball. And we know what they are. It's going to be Ilia Topuria or it's going to be Islam Makhachev. He has said that he needs a small surgery done. It does seem like it's still in the realm of possibility based on some, tweets from his team and stuff that I've been seeing, that he could be ready to fight Islam in Abu Dhabi in October. And if he can, he may get that fight, considering that Charles Oliveira has stated he won't be ready until November, and considering Poirier and Gaethje are probably going to put a beating on each other that maybe takes them out of that equation no matter who wins that fight. Yeah. So who knows? I guess it could be him. If he's not fighting Islam in October on that specific card, then I do think we end up waiting longer for the Islam rematch, and that he probably gets booked against Topuria in like November or December. That's my guess. I think the only way the Islam fight happens is if it's because they need an opponent for that card and Volk fits the bill. But yeah, it'll be one or the other, and I'm here for either one, to be quite honest.
Oh, God, Topuria. His time has come. That fight is going to be, if it happens and when it happens, that fight is going to be absolutely insane. I might set a record for most palpitations I've ever had going into a fight. What about you, Armor? What do you think is next? You think lightweight shot? You think waiting around for Topuria? I mean, staying down at featherweight for Topuria?
I think kind of just like Mark said, it's going to depend on the surgery, right? I mean, Volk seems like the guy that he said he wants to still fight at least one more time this year. He said he wanted to fight 2 more times this year, but I think it's safe to say that's not going to happen. So he might still be able to fight one more time this year. October seems like crazy soon, especially if he's getting a surgery and it's some kind of arm surgery. I don't know if there
That's
were
what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there were any specifics on it. He's probably very much capable of doing a December card, I would imagine. But then at that point, that's probably not Islam if Islam is trying to fight in October. So that might mean he's going to get another featherweight contender, which at that point would be Topuria. And to be honest, man, like like Mark, I'm kind of down with both. If he ends up fighting Makhachev, I think I still take him in that fight again. And then if he ends up fighting, and then if he's going to fight Topuria, I have a little bit more trouble picking that fight. I'll be completely honest with you.
He's been very dismissive of Topuria, more than I ever expected him to be.
Has he really?
He's pretty respectful of his opponents, and with Topuria, he's like, he's not an issue. Like he really has been playing that card, which is interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
But
maybe he's trying to psych
the Islam thing is so interesting too. Not to go on too big of a tangent, but like, if Volk ain't going to be ready, and Charles sticks to not being ready as he's said, they better hope Poirier or Gaethje gets a quick KO and can turn around. Because if not, I don't know what they're going to do with this card. I mean, Arman Tsarukyan might get a fucking rematch. I don't. He's might be the only logical other choice.
That would be a great fight too.
I mean, yeah, but like not one anyone thought was coming.
This is true.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the loser in this contest, the guy who lost his interim featherweight title, Yair El Pantera Rodriguez. Omar, what do you think is next for Rodriguez here?
I feel like it's been enough time, and I feel like Brian Ortega should probably get back in the mix. And I also feel like that's a fight that deserves a rematch, considering the way things ended. There's always going to be some controversy that, you know.
Is that where he popped his shoulder out?
Well, regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether that was an actual submission, whether the arm popped out by itself and all this other bullshit, it doesn't really matter. The way it ended with all that controversy just warrants another fight, just to kind of make it clear. And Brian Ortega needs another fight, or needs a fight at this point. He's been out for quite some time, and I think it's the perfect time to get that done.
But what about you, Mark? If you were the matchmaker,
I could not agree more.
What would you do next? Oh, okay. Good to know. GTK.
Could not agree more. I don't know why it has been so quiet regarding Ortega. I felt like we had hit the point where we were expecting to hear some like news on him, if I recall, and we really have not. But I gotta assume we're getting close here to him returning, and we got absolutely teased with that booking. It's an incredible booking. We were all ready to see it. We didn't really get to see it. I need to find out who was the better man there.
In the UFC, Brian Ortega has only lost to 3 men: Frankie Edgar, Max Holloway, and Alexander Volkanovski.
Oh, see,
it's the styles, man.
No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at
really
Yair.
the styles.
My bad. Fucking scratch that from the record.
But Yair has a bad habit of not doing what I think he needs to do on the ground against guys who don't want to get up, right? Or who don't give a shit if they're on the ground and they're going to pound on you. And it was the same thing with Frankie Edgar. Like, the fact that Yair has a closed guard against Alexander Volkanovski, what's the plan? Like, what is the plan? Because you're not going anywhere in closed guard. You're not transitioning. You're not moving your hips. You're not doing shit. You're not shrimping. There's nothing. So short of you trying to go for a Hail Mary submission for 25 minutes, I feel like there needs to be something better to do in those situations. I think that's his weakest aspect, I think, at this point. And against high-level guys who are good at being on top and who don't collapse to submission attempts and things like that, guys like Volkanovski, guys like probably like Max Holloway, who if they wanted to take it to the ground, they could. We've seen that happen before. I think he needs to get to that point where that part of his game evolves.
Okay, let me just correct the record. Brian Ortega has only lost to 3 men, luckily for me. Holloway, Volkanovski, and Yair. And Yair, I don't really count that as a loss.
I was just trying to look up what Ortega's deal is, and I only could find one thing on all of Twitter, which was Giga saying that they had been targeting him and Ortega, but that he has heard Ortega opted to get another surgery. So maybe he is not back soon. Okie dokie.
Balls.
Yeah, that would suck a lot.
Yep.
Sure would.
What is that? 2 years? At that point, right? Because we're coming up on, I feel like, the 2-year mark. Or
I don't think it's been that long, has it?
Dude,
no,
I don't know.
It was July of last year, so it's been 1 year currently.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on. You guys good to move on?
Yep.
Yeah, I guess if it can't be Ortega, maybe I'll audible to like a Calvin Kattar. That's an action fight. It'll be fun.
Love it.